Should we talk about today's topic?
Yes, today we're going to talk about imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah, I feel like definitely something that will that sometimes will get louder, quieter.
Yes.
But ever present.
Ever present. And I think we see it a lot with people who come to the Bad Bee Reset, that we work with lots of incredibly capable women.
1000%.
Who are absolutely brilliant at what they do, but they have this self-doubt or self-questioning that holds them back. So I'm just going to start at the very beginning just to help people understand what is imposter syndrome. And then we're going to talk about why it happens, when it kicks in, what we can do about it. So the reason it's called imposter syndrome is imposter syndrome is about... Sorry if you heard that. That's my dog getting up and having a good shake.
She's been listening to us talk and she's just settling down again. She's just going round and round in the bed.
The dog has no imposter syndrome.
No.
She doesn't doubt herself.
And this is the thing. You know, there used to be an O2 advert called Be More Dog. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And that was, I mean, aside from it being quite a cool campaign, there is something in that. Be more dog, as in just be more, live in the present moment.
Oh, I mean, I want my dog's life. It's amazing.
I mean, she's just like... She has an electric blanket,
she has an
right?
Electric blanket to keep her warm. Anyway, so before we got interrupted, imposter syndrome is basically this combination of feeling that you're not good enough or that you're not up to the standard that's expected. And the imposter part is and the fear of being found out, which is where shame comes in. And shame is one of the most powerful negative emotions we have. So for example, you might have a job that you have, and your colleagues might think you're capable of it, but you might internally think, I'm not good enough to have this job. I'm about to make a big mistake, or I'm just not qualified to do this, or I don't have the experience to do this. And at some point, my colleagues are going to figure it out, and then I'm going to be shamed or fired. And of course, last time we talked about the rejection from the tribe, kicking in our primal brain. So it pushes on that really strong button of, and then I'll be rejected. And we can have that at work. A lot of my clients, obviously I'm a career coach, so a lot of them have that at work. They get promoted into a role and they go, oh, you know, I'm not good enough, I'm going to get found out. Or they're being hired into a role, or they just have that fear every day, or they're given a new project and they think they're going to mess it up. But it can happen in personal relationships. You can be going out with someone and think, I'm not good enough to be with this person. They're going to figure that out one day, and that can change your behavior with them. You can have it with your friends. You can say, I don't, you know, I mean, you're an awesome person. I'm so grateful to be friends with you. And people can have this feeling of, well, I don't deserve to belong in this friendship group. And again, what this does is, first of all, it's not a fun experience. It makes you feel anxious and stressed. But also you can start sabotaging yourself.
100%.
Because and holding yourself back. So instead of going for the promotion or being confident when you're leading a project or feeling you can show up authentically in your relationships, because you're worried about being found out, it's like you're a double agent. Now you're having to manage how you present yourself the whole time, which takes up a huge amount of energy.
Yes.
It's incredibly stressful, and you're actually getting in the way of authentic connection.
Exactly that. And it's just that voice, because it is, like you said, driven by that need to be in the tribe, it is very powerful and very emotive and convincing. It will convince you that it's telling you the truth with absolutely no evidence at all. And so we can, and what you said as well about that self-sabotaging bit, when we think about things and when we say stuff to ourselves, our brain doesn't like to be a liar. It likes to be right. So if you are telling it a certain thing, it's going to look for evidence to support it too. So it'll be like, do you remember that time when you forgot to call back that customer? Do you remember that time when you stuttered in that meeting? No one else remembers, but it's like, remember those things. And then it will it then starts to look for more evidence and make you start to behave in a way that becomes the reality.
So your primal brain is going, see, you're not good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
See,
I told you so.
Exactly.
That's when we talk about, when we do the changes and working towards those authentic goals, how important it is to do the small ones, because if your primitive brain will convince you got to do that big 180, but then when you don't manage to sustain that big, massive change, it will go, yeah, see, I told you, you're always a loser.
Yeah.
You couldn't do it. You're never going to change. This is what it will tell you. And it's just so hard. And like you say, it's very, because it is emotional, it is really, it's just really upsetting.
And do you see it a lot with your clients?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's literally that inner dialogue becomes very noisy. And especially sometimes when it comes to making decisions and am I good enough, putting themselves forward. Do you know the organisation I work for even took it to the point where on job applications, they said Harvard research have shown that women will look at a job description, and if they don't feel like they can do everything, they won't apply. So, and then they followed it up with, if you have any interest in this job, please put your name forward. Let us do the worrying as to whether you've got the skill set for it, because they know how strong the bank recognised how strong that inner critic voice was for women, and how when they look at things, and unless they can uphold themselves to this amazing standard where they can do everything, they won't apply for the job.
I love that they did that.
Yeah, it's amazing.
They're actually calling it out and saying, we know you have imposter syndrome. Don't let it hold you back.
Yes, that is the amazing lady that is there. She's brilliant. Yeah,
That's unsurprisingly led by women. But I see it in my male clients too. I have lots of male clients experience imposter syndrome as well. What I wanted to do before we get into what we can do about it is I wanted to share my own experience of it, because I've had a very strong experience, several strong experiences of imposter syndrome, and I've overcome them.
this is amazing, because everyone will look at you and they'll think you're like an icon. Like you, it's like you're here and Anna Wintour are like here on the same level. You know, it's like they will look at. So I feel like it's really helpful if you share this.
Well, I will say thank you for the compliment, but I will say when I'm stood up on a conference stage in front of 1,000 people, I can understand why people looking
My
at
primitive
me.
brain went,
I can understand why people are looking at, because I spoke at the M&S Arena.
yes.
And they gave me Beyonce's dressing room, which was amazing. It was absolutely huge.
That's
It was just
so
me.
good.
It was so silly. And I was speaking in the round. So that's a stage where the audience is all around you. And then we have people joining online. So it's probably, in terms of in person, that's the biggest. Online, I've done a talk to 2,000 people, but online's very different. It's the biggest one I've ever done. And I can understand someone looking at me on that stage would be like, that person doesn't have imposter syndrome, right? So that's why I want to talk about my own journey with it, because I've really I would say I've faced it down, but it's not to say I don't still have it. So I started my career in investment banking straight out of university, and I had a really good degree from a good university. So I was reasonably confident in that way. And then I went into work, and I started as a graduate in corporate finance, and 2 months in I got made redundant.
Right.
And that was to do with the bank I was in was cutting a lot of people. But that's a knock to your confidence.
Yeah.
2 months into your first job, you lose it. Then I managed to talk my way into another job at the same bank, and I ended up in fixed income research. And this is working with some of the brainiest people in the bank. And I loved it, because I loved working with super smart people. I was using my degree in economics. It was a fast-paced environment. There were lots of great things about it. But everybody I worked with was crazily intelligent. And my little degree that I was proud of was nothing. Everyone had a PhD, a master's. They'd all worked at the IMF or the World Bank.
Wow.
Right. And I'd go into meetings and I wouldn't understand half the things that were said. And we didn't have the same kind of, like, we had Google, but it wasn't as good as it is now.
ChatGPT under the table.
No, we didn't. We didn't have ChatGPT. I honestly had a dictionary of economic and finance terms on my desk, and I'd write these things down in a meeting and come back and look at the book and go, what does any of this mean? So I immediately had massive imposter syndrome. I thought, I've just blagged my way into this job. I shouldn't be here. I'm not qualified enough. These people are much more intelligent than me. And I was also quite an anxious person. And as we talked about on the last episode, if your overall anxiety is high, the primal brain messaging and things like imposter syndrome can be that, get amplified.
Yes.
So I tell you, for the first 2 years, I thought I was going to get fired every day. Honestly, I thought they're going to figure out that I don't deserve to be here. And I'm not going to get anywhere. Now, interestingly, I got promoted early. So the evidence was saying the opposite. But I just kept feeling like I didn't deserve to be there, that I wasn't good enough. And then I burnt out. So I got chronic fatigue syndrome. And we can talk about that as a whole other episode. But I realised that one of the things I needed to do to recover was face my anxiety. And so I started looking into mindset and realising that having this very strong inner critic, because imposter syndrome comes with a very strong inner critic of saying, oh, you see, you didn't do that right.
Yes.
Or you're not good enough. I realised that inner messaging was driving my anxiety. So I started to work on shifting that inner dialogue, which we'll talk about shortly, into a much more positive one and recognizing what I was doing well. And I started to build my confidence. And I started to overcome this imposter syndrome. And I started to really believe that I deserved to be there and I was good enough. And that transformed my experience, because then I started acting more confidently. I would speak up more in meetings. I became more effective in my role. I was getting promoted. I then decided to leave that bank and go and work more in management, because I didn't think I was actually a great research analyst compared to these people. So I moved into a management role in another bank, still in research. And I kept doing all these things. I worked on my positive mindset. I worked on being a really great manager, working on the inner dialogue, taking on challenges. And so I was doing all this work, becoming really confident. And then I became the victim of my own success. Because one day, very unexpectedly, I get called into a meeting by the COO. And he says, Emilie, we're having to reorganise the research department, which I worked in. And we would like you to be the new head of fixed income research for Europe.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was only 31, I think, when that happened. And that was never expected. I hadn't taken the normal route, which would be to be a very experienced research analyst. And in fact, everyone who'd held that job before me was at least 10 years older and male.
Wow.
And so it was extremely premature that this happened. And so I had trained myself that I was ambitious, and that if the right opportunity came across my desk, I should say yes to it. So I remember this meeting, I said, thank you very much. Yes, I would love to do that. And then I went into the bathroom and completely freaked out, because now I'm responsible for 60 people globally. I'm an S1 supervisor, which means if someone messes up, you have to go in front of the Financial Conduct Authority and the SEC.
Perfect. What everyone in finance wants to do.
Yeah. So you're extremely responsible if things go wrong. And also, most people who were going to work for me were older and more experienced than me. And so what happens is the imposter syndrome comes raging back.
Yes.
In a huge way. And I see it in my practice now, that sometimes you think, oh, well, people have worked out their confidence and they get more senior. Sometimes when they get into the more senior jobs, it gets worse.
Yes. Because
you suddenly feel this huge expectation from everyone around you about how you're going to perform and what you're going to deliver. And there are a lot more eyes on you. There's a lot more criticism coming your way.
Yes.
So it almost like reset me. But I did all the work, all the things we're going to talk about today, and I worked through it and actually faced the fears that I had. And, I had a great experience doing that job. And actually, I really thrived in it, and it went really well. But I want people to know that I really have experienced that in a strong way and overcome it. And I help clients deal with that every day. But what I didn't do is I didn't let it hold me back, because I could have said no to that job. They said, do you want it? I could have let my imposter syndrome say, you're not qualified, you're not old enough, no one's going to think you can do it. So just don't take the risk. And that's where I really want people listening, if you have that imposter syndrome, don't let it hold you back from opportunities, because it's by taking those opportunities that you'll often build your confidence or face your fears and get over it.
Yes. And I think, do you feel like going to the bathroom, I feel like definitely with primitive brain, because it's there to keep you alive, as we talked about last week, you can't override it, you're not supposed to. Do you feel like having that with your inner critic was to give it like a little bit of airtime, to acknowledge it's there rather than try and squash it down,
100%.
was like helpful?
100%. And one of the things that I think can help with imposter syndrome, we're going to talk about how to change the messaging in your brain. But as we talked about last week with the primal brain, imposter syndrome can also be helpful, because it can help shine a light on where you might have some gaps that you might need to develop.
Back to that risk management bit.
Exactly. And so I also used it. I didn't just brazen it out and say, oh, Emilie, you've got this. You're just going to be great. I thought, okay, they took a huge risk, and I'm so grateful. There were two senior leaders who took a massive risk on me, and I'm forever grateful to them for this. And that's Nick and Jason. And they took a risk, and I recognized that. And I thought, okay, what are the bits that I'm not potentially going to be grateful or be ready at? How do I mitigate for that? And one of them was, I went to the person who'd held that position before me, and I said, don't really know what I'm doing. I was quite authentic and honest. I said, if something comes up and I don't know how to handle it, can I come and talk to you? And that person, David, was amazing. And he said, of course you can. Just come and see me if you have a problem. And one time something did come up, and I thought, I have no idea what to do with this. And he helped me. So I actually used the risk management aspect. I did sit down and think, what are all the things that could go wrong or could come across my desk? How do I make sure I'm ready for them, or I have people I can go to help me? I
Yes.
build that support team around me so that I can handle it. And I did build that support team around me. And I also realized I'm going to have a lot more work. So I delegated a lot of things outside of work. I got a personal assistant, I got a cleaner. I thought, take the pressure off elsewhere, make sure you're supported. I even did things like, I would look at my savings in my bank account and think, if I get fired, how long can I go without another job? And I wasn't going to get fired out of that job. I had so much support. But I was just understanding that I was taking a risk, taking that big step up. And so I managed it. And then that really calmed my primitive brain. Now, I still every day had to remind myself, I had to work through the things we talked about last time of telling myself, you've got this, reminding myself what I was grateful for, reminding myself what I was good at. I honestly had to do that every day in that job because it was such a big responsibility. So I don't want anyone to think it was easy.
No.
But because I had those tools, I was able to do it. And that was a major step change in my career.
Oh, that's amazing. And like a really good, so allowing your brain that like opportunity to that inner critic to come up and have a little bit of a platform, because then you can then start going into the risk management, and then also, like you said, having your little cheerleading squad, like your safety people that because you know, if we're part of that tribe, when people put their heads on the parapet, on the chocolate on the chocolate on the chopping block, thank you.
I know what you're saying.
You know, when people will vote for you, that restores, it's like, oh, they actually see it in me. So therefore you can start to believe it too. So yeah, having people in your tribe that vote and support for you, and also having people that are there if you need to call on.
So important. Yeah. Well, I think that leads nicely on to validation, because we do as people, we do need to be validated.
Yes.
And so sometimes I see my clients have imposter syndrome. They feel they're not good enough because they're not getting validated externally. They might work for bosses that aren't telling them when they do something right, they're just telling them when they do something wrong. And they might actually be amazing at their job, but their boss just isn't someone who points out when things are going well. This is actually normal for most people. So one of the things is we do all need a certain amount of external validation. So if you're not having a boss who's telling you that you're doing a good job, having friends who do. I mean, we always tell each other that we're doing a great job, because we are. But having people you can hang out with. I have a WhatsApp chat with some friends where whenever we do something well at work, we share it in the chat and then we tell each other how great we are.
I love that.
So even if no one's doing it at work, we're doing it for each other. So I think finding a way to have people give you positive feedback.
Your hype queen team.
Yeah, you need that. And then but then internally validating.
Yes.
Because one of the reasons we can have imposter syndrome is we might have been brought up with a very critical parent or a very critical environment. So we have this very strong internal critical narrative. And that's the opposite of internal validation. That's just like waking up every day to someone saying, you're bad at your job, nobody likes you, you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
And we need to be more like in the Lego movie. So I've seen something.
This is brilliant.
You know, in the Lego movie, they have that song, Everything is awesome.
Yeah.
We need to start our day with like the Everything is Awesome song. And that's internal validation. Internal validation is when you look at yourself and what you've done and how you show up and you recognize it as good. And you say, oh, I did a great job today because I did X, Y, and Z. Or I'm a good person because I showed up for my friend in this way.
Love that.
And we actually need a certain amount of internal validation. And if we don't do enough of that, we will want more external validation. We will seek it sometimes in unhealthy ways. And if we're not getting it from our boss, we'll feel it'll be much harsher than if we internally validate.
And I feel like with that internal validation, because I see it with my clients when I talk to them, if I say to them, that was freaking awesome, you've done amazingly, you can see them start to get a bit uncomfortable. So, and I will recognise it and I'll say it to them, and I was like, people who love you and care for you and want to support you, want you to realise what they already see about how amazing you are. But if you find that uncomfortable and you don't feel like you can wake up in the morning and go, I'm amazing, I'm the best thing ever, I've got this.
Which, by the way, isn't how we start our days.
No,
in case anyone thinks that is how we start our days.
But it's like, even if like we're not expecting you to, when it comes to internal validation, to go straight to, oh yeah, I'm the best thing ever. It's got to be more like, do you know, even if you're like, do you know what, I did okay. All right, I did an okay job. That was a good job. And then move on. You don't just start playing around with it like that when it comes to giving yourself internal validation.
I mean, I would write down, when I had tougher jobs and felt less confident, every day I'd write down 3 things I did well.
Love it.
And one of them could be I just got through the day without crying. You know, it's like at a low benchmark.
Yeah.
I mean, my job didn't make me cry, but there'd be moments where you just feel so frustrated
100%.
or just feel overwhelmed. Or it would be I stayed calm in a difficult conversation, or I got 3 things done on my to-do list. I started setting the bar quite low, and every day finding 3 things that I'd done well. So the first part of overcoming imposter syndrome is starting to manage that internal narrative, starting to internally validate yourself more, and starting to look for evidence that you are good enough, because you are capable of the job.
Yes, because your brain will naturally steer you into what you haven't done well. Like, for example, just even with your to-do list, if you have 10 things on it, if you do 8, your brain will go, but you didn't do those 2.
Yeah.
So writing down that positive list, very key.
3 things. And by the way, this isn't just at work. This can be in a relationship or as a parent, right? I think women can be very tough on themselves as mothers. And you're seeing people on social media seeming to do it all. And then you might have, 2 screaming toddlers and the house is a mess. And you might just write down, everybody's still alive.
Yes.
Like, that's a win. That's a win for the day.
There is an amazing sleep coach that I came across. Her name's Sam. I'll find her details. But her thing is, everyone's fed, no one is dead.
Yes. Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, everyone's still alive, and be grateful the way you showed up. Okay, I gave my child some affection when they are upset. I managed to, if you didn't manage to cook a meal, I managed to buy some food in a shop and put it on a plate. Just get really good at recognizing the things you did well. I gave my partner a hug when they came through the door. And we need to start looking for that positive evidence of, what did I do well at work? One of the things I see a lot is I have a lot of female clients who are senior to mid-level managers. And they're really capable, but they have a lot of imposter syndrome and they doubt themselves. And they can critique themselves. If you ask them, what could you do better? They can write books on it, right? They can write books on it. But then I say to them, okay, look at the other managers at your level. Are they all better than you? And you know what? 9 times out of 10, they can't think of a single one who's doing a better job than they are. And that can be this pivotal moment where they realise, wait a minute, I'm being really harsh on myself because I'm not perfect. Because very capable people hold themselves to these very high standards.
100%.
So we see, as people are very capable and become more senior, the imposter syndrome is getting worse because they're holding themselves to these higher standards. But we need to right size the standard. Look around, look at your colleagues and say, well, are they all doing a much better job? And then my clients start to go, wait a minute, no, I am doing a better job, or I am more present to my team, or I am consciously coaching them instead of problem solving. So I'm consciously developing them, or I am a bit calmer under pressure. So sometimes you do need to compare yourself a bit to start looking for the evidence and say, no, here is some evidence of how I'm doing a better job than other people in this area.
Yes, and I think that's really key. And then also, something I was thinking about when you were talking is, if you're in that situation and you're finding that inner critic is starting to run away, and you're finding yourself in a situation that you can't talk yourself out of within your own remit and capability, think about someone who you respect and admire, like Anna Wintour. If she was feeling like this, what would she do? Because the practical steps are going to always be really powerful to move you from a state of feeling like overwhelmed with that imposter syndrome, taking the steps to then give you real world evidence that you can do it, because our brain loves to have that real world evidence to build our confidence. We can't create confidence from nothing. It needs to have the action to back the evidence to show us. Yeah.
And this is where I want us to do a future episode on people who inspire us, because you can channel someone else's energy. Although, interestingly, Anna Wintour was recently asked in an interview what she does when she gets nervous, and she said, I don't get nervous.
Amazing. The thing is, even if she does, she's just going to be
never going to say
it. No, that's the thing about speaking it into, like,
into
she's not,
existence.
yeah.
But I do think, yeah, sometimes you can channel another. I talk to clients about developing a very confident alter ego. We sometimes give that alter ego a name, and they can sometimes channel that more. Pat, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because I'm just like, Anna Wintour is just like that. She's playing flipping psychological warfare with the interviewers.
No, she's so great. But you could channel your inner Anna Wintour if she's your icon, but you can channel another character, and that's where I think for women, finding inspirational, confident women that you can follow, consume their content, listen to their stories, so you can channel that. I want to move on in a second to other strategies, but is there anything else you can recommend in terms of the inner narrative and switching from that strong inner critic that increases imposter syndrome into a more confident inner mental narrative?
I think definitely taking a moment to take the breaths that we talk about and just reminding yourself, have like, even if you take some time to write down times where I did an awesome job, and it only needs to be like 3 examples, just so you can in that moment go, but I can do it because X, Y, and Z. Remind your brain of that real world evidence that you can do it.
And just build up a book. Someone once told me that one of their friends kept a book of all their achievements in their career and just kept filling it in, and just gets more and more full, and you can flip back and go through that book and say, oh my God, look at all the things I have done, I have overcome.
They used to have that at school. I used to have they used to make you do a record of achievement, which I was thinking, did you not?
No.
I thought it was like a national thing. But yeah, they used to make you put down like certificates, your extracurricular activities and what you did. Yeah, actually, that's pretty good actually.
Oh, see, I wonder whether now, do children still have things like swimming badges and certificates? Because we would, you put those up and display those. It's a way of reminding your children of their achievements. But we don't tend to do that as grown-ups. We tend to be a bit embarrassed of our achievements, particularly in the UK. The Americans can be a bit stronger on it. I've got up in my study, this is a bit embarrassing to admit it, but I'll admit it here, is a cover of a magazine called Brummels. And Brummels is a city magazine. And every year they used to do this list of, it was called the top 30 under 40. And it is actually a list, it's hilarious. It's called a list of city hotshots.
I love it.
It's just so cheesy. And I was on it.
That's amazing.
And so I was on the Brummels list one year. And so I've got that. I don't have my page framed. I just have the cover framed in my study as a reminder that was an achievement of getting that recognition. And that was a very kind of proud moment. And I do keep a few mementos, visual cues around my house of things that remind me of when I felt really confident in my work. So finding those ways, you're not going to put your 5-meter swim badge up on the wall, but
find that's your jam.
Find ways to capture those moments and then remind yourself of them.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so we talked about the inner narrative that's really important. We talked about imposter syndrome as a form of risk management. And as we said last time with the primal brain, don't completely ignore it. When you go through all your fears, some of them might be rational. How can you mitigate for them? The final point I wanted to talk about that really helps overcome imposter syndrome is taking on challenges to build your confidence. Because if you build true confidence in any area of your life, it bleeds into other areas. And it helps quieten down that imposter syndrome because you feel like I can cope with when things come up. So for example, I will take on challenges of doing things I don't know I can do yet. And then when I achieve them, my brain realizes that I can handle the unexpected. I can handle things I haven't done before. And one of the great gifts I got from doing that very senior job early on is I took on that job not knowing if I could do it, with some serious doubts whether I could do it. There were other people in the bank who had serious doubts whether I could do it. And then, but I had this belief that I can handle the challenges that come. And there were challenges and I did handle them. And now that's in my memory bank forever.
Love it.
And that's given me a huge amount of confidence that when opportunities come my way, instead of doing that very normal thing of assessing, am I capable enough to do it? I just think, is it aligned with my goals? Is it aligned with my values? One of which is contributing and helping people. And if it's aligned with those things, I'm going to say yes, whether or not I think I'm capable of it.
Love that.
Because I've built that inner confidence that whatever it is, I will learn how to do it. Now, for future clients out there who are thinking, oh, does she take on jobs she can't do? When a company's coming to me saying, can you run a workshop? If it's on a topic of which I have no expertise, I'm not going to take that on just for the fun of having a challenge, because one of my values is true contribution. So I have this guiding value that I will also only do it if I can make a positive difference. But I think if you suffer from imposter syndrome, regularly taking on challenges, maybe small baby steps, and then overcoming them, and they can be outside, inside of work, will build that confidence that makes you feel much more comfortable when the unexpected comes along.
And for those of you that perhaps felt like that they were more confident in like late teens, early 20s, number one, our risk management, because of our brain development, is very different then. We don't have that same level of, oh, actually, I need to reassess and try and work out every nuance of what might go wrong. But if you have had those very confident 20s, you find yourselves that like maybe life has become a bit wearing, or you just feel like you aren't how you wish to be or feel like your true self. To rebuild that confidence, like you said, don't forget how important it is to start doing, remember the things you've done, but start even just going back to doing the things that you were doing. If you've made your world quite small, do the steps to build your confidence, your real life evidence bank, to move you forward so you can take on the bigger things where you step outside your comfort zone more.
So let's just, before we wrap up, let's just share a few examples of what are some of the kinds of little challenges people can do that can build their confidence. And we see it actually in physical strength leads to mental strength and confidence. So it might be that you don't run and your first challenge is, I'm going to run a 5K for charity. So my first step is I'm going to go and do a run walk where you run for a minute, walk for a minute for like 10 minutes, and maybe do it with a friend. So that's one, like a small challenge you can take on that can build your confidence. What are some other examples?
So in terms of, sometimes our brain loves accountability. You can find yourself like a physical challenge, like a race, or some business owners are really hesitant about like talking about their business. So go on a podcast, but don't like pitch to Joe Rogan or something. Pick to a podcast that aligns and feels like they've got an audience that feels good to you, like an audience level. Start building your confidence that way. If you want to sing, join a rock choir. There is an amazing book by, oh my goodness, I can't remember her name.
What's the book called?
It's called, so there's an amazing book called Co-Steering, and it's written, no, it's not even called that. I will get together. My brain is like working.
Let me give you an example while you figure out the book.
I have it now.
Go, there we go. Magic.
Just like your brain knows the answers, it sometimes just has to figure around in the filing cabinets. So there is an amazing book called Coasting, written by a lady who was in a time in her life where she felt unhappy and everything just felt off vibe. And so I'm not going to ruin the book for you, but she goes through her challenges, but effectively she sets out on a quest where she decides she's going to run around the coast of Britain. And in terms of managing that inner voice and that inner critic, it is the best example. But one of the key things she says in it is, and I will link the book, is she says, if you want to run. If you want to be a runner, run. And it's the same in life. If you want to be a singer, sing. If you want to do stand-up comedy, even if you just start by posting a couple of videos online, you don't have to go full ham and go and do a live stand-up comedy to start off with. Like you said, going out with a friend to complete your exercise, anything like that, to be the person doing the thing, you just have to do the thing and build that real world evidence bank of it.
I love that. I coach a lot of people who are terrified of public speaking and presenting. And so we're trying to find like the first small step. And a lot of that fear is about a fear of rejection.
Yes.
So one of the things I will set them as a challenge is talk to someone in the queue at the coffee shop.
Love it.
Just talk to a stranger or go up to someone and ask them for directions. And that might seem really unrelated to public speaking, but it's about getting comfortable speaking to strangers. And it's really interesting how when people get comfortable speaking to strangers, how much their confidence grows.
Yes.
And this weird thing that a lot of people are now afraid of that used to be really normal. You might think, when I was younger, I could talk to a person in a bar all the time, and now I'd be afraid to. Starting to confront that fear and talk to people all the time builds their confidence. Then they make really interesting connections, and then they feel more comfortable in other settings with people they don't know. So it's not always that you have to take on a challenge that is directly exactly the same as the thing you're afraid of. But it's just taking on doing things that are slightly uncomfortable. And when you've done it, it builds a bit of confidence of, oh, I can do the uncomfortable thing.
Exactly that. Perfect.
So we hope that's helped you identify imposter syndrome is something you struggle with, but also real things you can do about it. As I said, I've really experienced it and overcome it. I hope that's inspired you, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Bad Bitch podcast.
And if you feel like this podcast will be helpful to anyone, please just share it with them. Or if you've got any questions or any topics you want us to discuss, please let us know, because we would really love to hear from you.